return home. They informed her, clutching the proposal she had worked so hard on, "You're just a high school graduate." There and then, she burst into tears. After leaving for the main office, she came back in less than half an hour, admitting to the appalling treatment she had experienced from the planning department. As a coworker, witnessing her attempts and problems firsthand, I lost all control of my rage and grabbed my phone to yell at the person on the other end. "I'll dismiss everyone. You had best be at the main office by now because I'm going there." My coworkers turned to face me when I spoke up loudly, their eyes wide with surprise. She too stopped crying and looked at me in disbelief, her mouth hanging open. I walked over to her and softly whispered, "Now it's all right. Rest assured, everything will work out fine." I then rushed to the main office, where I met my caller, and made my way to the conference room. I'm called Charles. I have been employed for around 3 months at a branch of the large confectionery manufacturer Hayes Corporation. I was moved from the main office to the branch at the age of 64, and the other staff members appeared to believe that I had been degraded. Although I was aware that they were talking behind my back about me, I didn't mind because I wasn't being harassed directly. Unfortunately, my coworkers avoided me because of those rumors, which made it impossible to communicate. But one employee greeted me with warmth while the others kept their distance. Patricia Davis is her name, and she is an accountant. "Charles, good morning. It seems a little warm today," she remarked. "Greetings, Patricia. Even though it's October," I said, "it feels like summer is back." Patricia has worked for the company for 4 years, having started as a contract worker immediately out of high school. She has been kind to me ever since I came to this branch and has frequently inquired about me. We now enjoy lighthearted talks over lunch together. Although Patricia is always happy, she had a difficult past because she lost both of her parents in a car accident. She shared her experience with me one day over lunch. She claimed to have grown up in an orphanage after her parents perished in an automobile accident when she was in middle school. She anxiously anticipated indulging in the delicacies that Hayes Corporation consistently supplied to the orphanage. Even though the orphanage staff was friendly, I occasionally stumbled and fell. But for some reason, I felt better after eating some Hayes candies. Patricia enrolled in Hayes in accounting, her ideal job, after studying bookkeeping at a commercial high school. When she spoke of Hayes candies, her eyes lit up, expressing her affection for the brand. She began discussing her ideas for new candies she thought Hayes could make one day during our routine break time conversation. I had to admit that I was a little surprised by this novel thought. "Patricia, that's a really good concept. Your imagination is very vivid. You do excellent accounting job, but I believe you would also be a superb planner." Patricia's eyes glowed with happiness as she hesitated to say anything. "To be honest, I've always wanted a job in planning." "That is fantastic. Have you given any thought to discussing a departmental transfer?" "Oh no. A person just like me," Patricia threw her hands in front of her face hastily. "I've never planned anything before. In addition, I just hold a high school diploma." I put a hand on her shoulder and firmly remarked, "Your education doesn't matter. What counts are your creative ideas and enthusiasm for Hayes candies that thrill our customers. Both are yours." "Are you really that sure?" "Without a doubt. Would you mind entering the upcoming workplace contest with your idea for sweets?" The business competition. Patricia was shocked, her eyes widening, her voice rising in surprise. "You are aware that the business hosts an internal competition once a year, correct? Participation is open to everyone, regardless of work situation. You should give planning a shot if you're truly interested in doing so." As I fervently urged Patricia to enter the competition, I could feel her heart faltering. "If it doesn't work out, it won't have an impact on your present circumstances. I believe you would have an amazing experience." She hesitated for a time before raising her head resolutely. "You're accurate. I have to make an effort. Nothing will happen if not. Charles, I've made the decision to enter my idea in the upcoming company contest. That is the essence. I'll answer any inquiries you may have. Ask me whatever you want." "Yes, I really appreciate it." I smiled as I observed Patricia's ecstatic reaction. She had talent and desire, so I knew she would do well in the competition. Following that, I assisted Patricia in getting ready for the corporate contest and showed her how to create a proposal. Patricia finished her proposal and continued to fulfill her regular accounting responsibilities in addition to preparing for the contest. She was a dedicated worker in addition to having talent and desire. Patricia had completed her proposal at last. "Charles, you're the reason I was able to put everything together. I really appreciate it." "Patricia, I just taught you how to write it. All of the rest is due to your diligence. It must have been challenging to juggle it with your accounting work. You performed admirably." She wiped her eyes swiftly and embraced the proposal close to her chest, almost in tears. I had a nice feeling in my chest when I saw her like way. "I'll go ahead and submit the proposal immediately." I felt a sense of pride as I saw her excitedly bolt from the room, carrying it as though it were my own. She got an email from the main office a month later. She received an email letting her know that her idea had made it beyond the preliminary review. "Charles, we succeeded. I won the first round." "Patricia, that is fantastic. I was certain your plan would work." We toasted by putting our hands together, and my unusually high level of excitement made me flush. "Next is the presentation at the main office," exclaimed Patricia, not realizing what she was doing. "Since this is my first presentation, I'm really anxious." "How about until the big day, we practice the presentation together?" "Really?" "Naturally, of course. We need to ensure that your idea is authorized now that we have progressed this far. I can't wait to taste those treats already." After my lighthearted comment, she grinned and chuckled. We then practiced for the presentation at the main office during our after-work hours. Patricia first found the new duty difficult, but with repetition, she made tremendous progress. She would perform admirably in the real presentation at this rate. The day of the company contest's final round finally arrived. Patricia intended to go to the main office after working at the branch until noon. As she prepared to depart, she added, "I'm sorry to leave work unfinished, everyone." Her coworkers smiled and shook their heads. "It's all right. Patricia, you work so hard all the time. Be at ease regarding us. We wish you luck in the competition. We are supporting you." Patricia was well liked by her coworkers since she was always kind to everyone. As they said goodbye to her, not a single grumble was spoken. I remained silent and simply gave her a strong nod when she looked in my direction. She nodded back, confidently making her way to the main office. Even that seemed to express how I felt. I gave her my heartfelt support and went back to working with my coworkers as usual. After a time, I heard the door open and gave it an inquisitive glance. Nobody was allowed to get up from their seat, and no guests were anticipated. Who might that be? I was surprised to see Patricia there as she was supposed to be at the main office. It had only been 30 minutes since her departure. The last screening meeting could not possibly end so soon. I was concerned that she might have overlooked anything crucial. "Patricia, what is the issue? Have you forgotten anything?" She gave me a sharp shake of her head as I hurried closer to her. I could see tears in her eyes as I looked down. Patricia is always so happy that there must have been some serious incident. She was struggling to talk, almost crying. Patricia clarified, "I was brought to the contest location and waited for the planning team to arrive with the other participants. Normally they avoided me, but my other coworkers came over, worried about her." Patricia looked up, her face filled with tears and nervousness. Then a member of the planning team said, "Why is a high school graduate here?" After taking a look at my materials. The harsh remarks caused my blood to boil. In addition to their names, contestants had to provide a brief biography and the department in which they currently work. Someone must have noticed her past and said that terrible thing. "This isn't a place for a high school graduate like you," they declared. "Go home. You're in the way." She was at a loss for words. Patricia knelt and at last started crying. I balled my hands in frustration and was unable to speak. The callous words directed toward Patricia infuriated my colleagues as well. How could they say anything like that, rejecting her before they had even had a chance to read her proposal? Education ought not to be important. I was well aware of their emotions, but being upset in this place wouldn't make things better. I left her with my coworkers and used the branch office phone to contact the planning department. Sorry to disturb you, but could you put me in contact with the person overseeing today's contest in the planning department? I asked to speak with the person in charge without identifying myself, and the person on the other end appeared irritated. Without waiting for my answer, they abruptly ended the call and stated, "We're in a meeting right now." I pulled out my phone in frustration and gave a certain individual a call. They answered after a few rings, and I shouted, "I'll fire everyone," without providing any further context. Right now, I'm on my way to the main office. You had better show up. My coworkers looked at me startled by my loud speech. Patricia also stopped crying and looked at me with her mouth hanging open. I walked over to her and said, "Patricia, it's okay now. Remain calm. Everything will work out ok." I apologized to everyone, but I must go for a little while. My coworkers, who were still in disbelief, gave rigid, puppet-like nods without saying anything. Patricia looked shocked as she watched me go. I stormed to the main office, met the person I had contacted, and made my way to the conference room. I walked right in without knocking, which made the staff members in the planning department stare at me strangely. When one of the staff members noticed the strange elderly man, they brashly asked, "What do you think you're doing? We are currently engaged in a crucial meeting. If you have no business here, leave." A furious-looking man in his 40s rushed in behind me as more staff members were going to speak. The staff greeted him with yells of "President." Yes, he was the Hayes president and the person I had spoken with earlier. "What in the world is going on, Chairman?" As soon as you got to the main office, you rushed inside the meeting room. The staff gasped in surprise once more at his words, "Chairman," and they looked at me. I removed my spectacles and disguised wig to disclose that I was the chairman of Hayes Corporation. The staff gasped involuntarily when they realized who I really was. I looked around the room, irritated, and clicked my tongue. What in the world is happening here? Why are all of you present here? I roared at the staff, and they flinched back, menacing as a demon. They obviously didn't understand why they were receiving reprimands, though. I gave them a stern look and told them to bring all of the contest submissions. One worker got to his feet and carried over a stack of ideas with an obsequiousness. Charles Moore appeared on his name badge. "Here you go, Chairman." I took Charles's suggestions almost immediately and began leafing through them. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find Patricia's proposal. Is this really all of them? Yes, each and every one of them is a fantastic proposal deserving of Hayes, he said with assurance. I gave him a chilly glance. At that moment, there was a knock on the conference room door, and a female staffer pushed a cart filled with tea inside. She brought more than just tea, though. She carried a bundle of frayed documents, which she silently gave to me. I noticed the staff members' fleeting expressions of fear. And what is this? In the trash, I discovered it. I brought it here since I believed it to be one of the submissions for the competition today. There was Patricia's name on the proposal. My rage was heightened by the knowledge that all of her hard work had been in vain. Charles continued, his self-satisfied look belying my mounting fury. Well, it seems like that one got past the guard. It reads like an essay from elementary school, so we weren't sure why it made it this far. As he spoke, Charles scoffed, and the workers around him laughed too. You say, an essay from elementary school? Yes, a high school graduate wrote the proposal. We felt that reviewing it was a waste of time. We got rid of it right away since it would only cause trouble for the gathering. Charles continued to criticize Patricia, looking even more smug, believing that my silence meant that I agreed with him. Those with little educational attainment blatantly demonstrate their limitations by submitting such a request in public. Graduates from high school should only take positions that fit their skills. I see. That's your viewpoint, but I disagree, I remarked, stepping in discreetly. His chit-chat broke up abruptly. I have personally examined this plan. It struck me as a really great and inventive proposal. Regretfully, it appears that we have different opinions. Charles became pale at what I said. You're correct, of course. I also had that thought. As soon as I complimented the plan, he swiftly altered his attitude, despite all the abuses he directed at Patricia. He began to grovel, making a valiant effort to defend himself. Well, Chairman, it's impressive that you see the potential in this plan. Others claimed that considering a proposal from a recent high school graduate was a waste of time, so I too had my eye on it. Several workers got out of their seats in rage as Charles attempted to place the blame elsewhere. What topic are you discussing? You were the one who advised against considering a proposal from a recent high school graduate. Whoa, I said exactly what you guys said. Don't blame me by myself for this. During the abrupt and brutal dispute that broke out, I covered my face with my palm. When did the quality of Hayes' employees fall so low? I yelled at them because I was tired of their constant arguing. Then I gave the staff a fierce look and spoke in a firm voice. If having a high school degree is deemed unfit, what about someone like me who barely completed middle school? Does that mean I can't be chairman anymore? After middle school, I began working at a tiny candy store and built Hayes into a significant confectionery company. It was impossible for the workers at Hayes to be unaware of this industry-wide tale. The planning department staff appeared shocked, as if they had finally remembered this information, and then awkward quiet ensued. I sighed deeply as I looked at the president, who had been fidgeting uneasily in the back. I trusted you to handle things. Unable to reply, the president simply lowered his head in embarrassment. I had devoted my time to philanthropic activity since taking on the role of chairman and leaving active duty. I tried not to become involved too much and trusted the president with the company, but this was the outcome in the end. At the orphanages I'd oversee, I've heard some unfavorable rumors about Hayes. Do you know how surprised I was to hear them? My involvement in charitable activity led me to purchase multiple orphanages and take on the role of director. Patricia attended one of these orphanages during her time in school. I had heard from the staff that a girl from the orphanage worked at Hayes, even though I had never met Patricia. During one of my regular visits to the orphanage, I overheard a staff member tell a startling anecdote. Patricia recently joined Hayes and brought her issue to me. Before her 5th year, she claimed, her contract might not be renewed. Did she make any mistakes at work? The typical reason for terminating a contract employee's job is that they committed an error that resulted in a loss for the business. This could be one of those cases, I thought, but the female employee shook her head. No, Patricia hasn't committed any grave errors. It appears that she is not alone in this. The contracts of other workers are also being terminated before they reach the 5-year mark. I expressed astonishment at Hayes when I learned that non-regular employees had the option to convert to regular employees after 5 years if they so want. Lately, though, it appears that non-regular workers are having their contracts canceled before they've had them for 5 years. The staff at the orphanage had no reason to lie, which shocked me. Besides, lying would do nothing for them. This implied that the rumors were probably the result of something negative happening at Hayes. Had the company I fostered, Hayes, changed in my absence? If that's the case, I have to stop this now. I made the decision to go incognito in order to gain insight into the company's internal issues. Feeling that it was fate, I went with Patricia's branch. I gave a brief explanation of how I got here and then looked at the president and staff, Charles among them, who had gone pale. Although I didn't want to think Hayes has turned into this kind of business, it appears that non-regular staff indeed receive appalling treatment. No, Chairman, we were just attempting to preserve Hayes' honor. Charles clung hard to his point while perspiring heavily. He was displaying some persistence because he hadn't given up despite the circumstances. But there is no room for personnel in our organization who denigrate other people based just on their educational background. And what does dignity mean to you? I inquired. Charles retorted, well, by making sure that important positions are filled by graduates from top universities. You're still not getting it. You are the ones who defile the honor of our organization. Charles was shocked and fell to the ground when I yelled at him. There's no reason to keep you here if we don't need to listen to those who harm Hayes' name. Take off right now. Not in a way. Charles and the other staff members in the planning department fell to pieces, realizing they were about to be sacked. After that, I made the decision to rid the business of its corruption by employing outside detectives to conduct background checks on the president and the staff members of the planning department. Patricia was not the only employee who had been the target of bullying and harassment because of their work status or educational background, the study found. What a disgrace. It appears that Patricia's proposal was found among the rubbish by a victim herself. Like Patricia, she had graduated from high school, but due to her degree, she was only assigned menial duties and was never given serious project work. She brought the rejected idea with a desire to assist Patricia, who was being made fun of for her background, because she felt sorry for her that day. She won't face prejudice in the workplace based on her educational background going forward and can perform to the best of her skills. Charles and the other major employees were fired for disciplinary reasons, making them the primary offenders. Regional branches were given responsibility for other staff members who took part in the harassing but weren't as aggressive. Comparing these branches to the main office, there are more non-regular staff. It will be beneficial for them to see personally how hard these workers work. The examination also showed that non-regular employees' contracts were being terminated by the HR head just before they reached the 5-year mark. He terminated their contracts before they could seek for regular status because he didn't appreciate the increase in labor costs that would result from non-regular employees becoming regular employees. What a stupid decision, given that hiring gifted people on a full-time basis would only help the business in the long run. Furthermore, nepotism was also practiced by the HR director. A guy like that could not keep a significant post for long, and he was demoted. The president was the final employee to receive punished after all other employees had been decided upon. I find it disappointing that this is the outcome as well. No, I'm accountable for not adequately overseeing the staff. I sincerely apologize, the president stated. He was forced to resign after years of disregarding the company's problems. He did not contest the decision, having seen everything that took place in the meeting room. He was not directly involved in the controversy and was a really wonderful man. Had he been aware of the harassment occurring among non-regular staff, he would have taken action well in advance of my need to intervene. But he was so overburdened by his presidential responsibilities that he was unable to monitor internal matters. He was unable to defend himself as president by claiming he was ignorant of the employees' misbehavior. With a clear understanding of this, he bid me farewell and discreetly departed the organization. But I was also somewhat to blame for my lack of focus on internal business issues. I made the decision to take over as interim president in order to completely restructure the business until a new president was chosen. I could not let my beloved company's employees suffer any longer. My goal was to provide a transparent, equitable workplace for gifted individuals like Patricia. The internal competition was revived, and contestants were invited to resubmit their ideas in an anonymous manner. To ensure a fair review process, the obligation to include departments and personal histories was removed. This is the idea that was finally chosen in the competition, president. And staffer handed them the plan, which naturally had no name on it, saying, "Please have a look." But after turning only a few pages, I was certain of who it belonged to. It was obvious. Patricia had made the suggestion. I returned the proposal to the worker after carefully reading it and grinned, saying, "This is a great proposal. I'm excited to see this candy turned into a tangible good." I went to see the kids at the orphanage in between my responsibilities as president. At Hayes, we're creating a brand new confectionery. I'll bring some here when it's ready. Congrats. Excellent. What sort of confection is that? That is kept under wraps. You will need to wait and observe. A grin also appeared on my face as I observed the kids' laughter and anticipation. I felt warm and happy thinking about these children, savoring the candy Patricia had made.